Okay, it's 4:32. We're going to get started. Welcome, everyone, to the 2020 USATF New England Annual Meeting. For those who don't know me, I'm Chris Pasco. I am the president of USATF New England for about another 90 minutes. So I thank everyone for coming out on such a beautiful day and joining the meeting. Before we get started, I want to just go through a couple guidelines that are going to be helpful since we're on Zoom today. Many of you do Zoom meetings or WebEx or other types of online meetings. There's just a couple tips to remember, especially for those who haven't done these frequently, that will make this go as smoothly as possible. First, if you are not speaking, please stay on mute. It is extremely important. There will be 75 to 100 people on this call. Otherwise, we'll never be able to make progress. If you want to speak, please put up the little blue hand. I will be monitoring, and Justin will be monitoring the participants, and we will call you when your little blue hand is up, and we'll take you off mute at that time. If the Zoom call fails, within 5 minutes, we will send out a new set of login directions. We have those ready. Hopefully that does not happen. When we get to the votes, we'll have votes on bylaws and on candidates. Please follow the voting procedures carefully on as it relates to the bylaws. Hopefully those will be done via the Zoom poll, as it relates to elections, some will be done by acclamation, and some will be done by the Zoom poll. My last direction is to have fun. This will not be a perfect meeting. It is on Zoom. It's obviously much better if we were all together. But I'd ask everybody to have fun. We will try to follow Robert's Rules of Order as best we can. This may turn into, as I like to call, Bobby's Rules of Order, but we will try to stick to the rules as close as we can to have a productive and efficient session. Let me start by reviewing today's agenda. After my remarks, I will turn it over to Steve Vitonis, Managing Director, and Dave Lapierre, our Treasurer, to give 5-minute reports. There'll be a chance to ask some questions after those. Next, we will move to votes on 4 proposed bylaw amendments. I will review the process, each amendment, and then we'll have a vote. Next, we will go to new business, which will include an update on cross-country and an update and motion on the annual meeting, the national annual meeting. Then we will move to our elections. As part of the elections, you'll hear from our candidate for president, Dave Tesler, as well as the candidates from contested offices. Finally, I will make some concluding remarks to really summarize my 4 years on the board. So let me start with a few minutes on where we are in the state of the sport. As you all know, this will be my last annual meeting as president. In order to prepare for today, I pulled out my notes from the last annual meeting. As you can imagine, the state of our sport a year ago was very different than it is today. COVID-19 has been a huge challenge for our sport, just as it has been for all elements of our society. Last year, I talked about record participation in track, multiple national records by New England athletes, and an explosion on our social media, on people following our social media platforms. This year, after record numbers at our indoor championship of both spectators and athletes, and a membership record through mid-March of members for the year's been quite a challenge. No road race Grand Prix, no ATR, no MUT, no cross-country Grand Prix. However, despite the difficult year, I've never been more optimistic about our sport. I've seen incredible resilience and creativity to get our sport back running. That pun was intended. Road races have started again. Our 52nd Codfish Bowl has been converted to an asynchronous and virtual race. And interestingly enough, we have more people registered than we've had in the past 10 years for that event. You'll hear briefly from Chris Wargo during New Business about our progress on potential cross-country New England championships. And finally, I think as I look at the candidates we have for the board, it's a wonderful, diverse set of very qualified people. Our sport is about resilience. It's about commitment. It's about caring. It's about community. I've seen all those traits more over the past 6 months than I've seen at any time in my time in the sport. And I believe that 2021, we will leverage those strengths to have the best year we've had as an association. Finally, before we turn to our agenda, I'd like to acknowledge the following board members who are retiring from board service tonight. Lori Bumker, who's been just amazing, obviously a Hall of Famer, National USATF Hall of Famer. Her and her husband, Ron, have been just really amazing for this organization. Scott Mindell, who's done great things in his time on the board and his leadership on LDR. John Oleski, who served as a VP and an athlete's rep on the board and an accomplished master's athlete. Jack Wozak, who served as an athlete's rep this year and is a great help in youth throughout the association. And Barbara Hamilton and Larry Lebo, who served as vice presidents. Larry, his second time on the board. They've added so much to USATF New England, and I want to thank them for their great service. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Steve Vitonis for his 3 to 5 minute update on his year as managing director.
You'll have to unmute, Steve.
Let me find you, Steve. There we go.
There you go.
All right.
I don't think I'll be the first person that'll start talking without being unmuted.
This might be good for you, Steve, actually. I don't know. Okay, here we go.
I posted my report earlier this afternoon, and I'll just cover the high points of those different paragraphs. Normally, I begin with some exciting or boasting of how our programs were well populated, and we had national recognition and national championship events held here. But this isn't a normal year, so I can't begin with those. I will say that even through mid-March, when just about all activities ceased, our membership was up over 4,600 for individuals and over 115 for clubs, and our sanctions were right on target for what we've had in the past. Even with those numbers, I think we may end up being the association with the largest number of members. The renewal and new members indicate that people are willing to, not willing, they have supporting our association with all the programs that we do. Many associations don't get really rolling until the summer, and they don't have this feeling of involvement and buying into the association. 2019, we did continue to match all of our criteria for accreditation, and though we won't know what the criteria adjustments are for the coming year, I think we'll have that. Despite all the negatives, we did have a lot of positives. We did hold our indoor open and masters track championships. We did hold our 5-mile road championships. Dealing with certain things administratively, we connected to the new USATF Connect system for clubs and individuals. And while it isn't flawless, I think individuals, clubs, and our association will benefit out of having that. We'll have a new website via the national office up. It'll mirror the look of the national system, and it will take us a month to catch up from when they built it out. We're going to have a new email, bulk email distribution, which will help us get back to at least monthly notices. And with all this electronics, I do want to recognize and thank our intern Jake McNeil for his handling of all the social media for the last 9 months. Dave Tesla for maintaining our well-populated COVID resource page. If you haven't looked at it, it's linked at the front of our website. No association, I think few sports organizations locally will match that. And along with that, thanks to Justin Koo, who's been our resource manager for all things technology for many years. Moving ahead, where are we going in 2021? There's not going to be any magic silver bullet that'll take us back to where we were 8 months ago. But I think the key for us will to rely on what our core competencies are to manage the new environment and rebuild programs locally and the activities that have brought us to success in the association over many years. Our challenges will be facility access for all sports. Municipalities, colleges, private facilities are cautious in letting more people in. And then there'll be the challenge of getting more volunteers, because we need to staff those events and the different types of events which will require more help. The challenges also come with additional opportunities, new clubs and association activities that will minimize the effects of the shutdown of scholastic and youth programs around the 4 states. It'll give us a chance to boost officials, which will be more officials will be needed, as there's already a back off from some of the older members in the officials community, which are simply not going to work large events anymore. And there'll be a need for them because there'll be more events that are smaller rather than single large events. And we can look at ways to take advantage of the increase in fitness and running interest that we've found over since quarantines, and transfer those into new members and new programs. So I look forward to working with the new board, and I want to thank Chris for his leadership, particularly implementing best practices structure for our board and instilling a real can-do attitude amongst those board members to get and improve programs and processes through the last 4 years.
Steve, thank you very much. We have time for 1 or 2 questions for Steve. Does anybody have a question? If you do, raise your blue hand. Okay, I don't see any questions for Steve. Thank you for your report. You have a written report. Certainly, Steve is always available to answer questions in the office, and has been doing tireless work during this time. I'll talk a little bit about that later. I'd like to turn it over to Dave to give a treasurer's report.
Good afternoon, everybody. As we all know, the past year with the sport has been pretty interesting. And when I talk about the past year from this financial report, I'm really referring from September to September, which is different from our actual corporate year, which is January to January. So, we saw a significant loss for the past 12 months. We had a loss at this time last year, but it had been going down. We were trying to get to a goal of breaking even this year, but currently our losses look like about $60,000 for the past 12 months. So we normally look at our profit and loss from a programs perspective, and on that front, we stayed break even from a programs perspective with the events that we held, both on the income and expense side. Those numbers were down, but they still broke out pretty even. I've got a lot of details in my report that I posted, but just a couple of highlights that the biggest hits on the income side were with the membership as well as our sanctioned revenue. And then on the expense side, one of the biggest things that we typically have is the travel expenses related to folks who are attending the annual meeting. So one highlight for going into the next 12 months is that for the meeting in December, it will not involve much, if any, expense because the meeting will be virtual. One of the things we were able to take advantage of with COVID was the Paycheck Protection Program. So we were able to apply for a loan which covers roughly 2 months of payroll and office expense. So that loan will likely be forgiven as long as we follow the procedure for documenting our expenses. So rather than sort of walk through the report I have, I thought it might be best just to have questions if people have any.
Sure, Dave. Again, for folks who want to ask questions, raise your little blue hand. I will make 2 comments. One, Dave has done an incredible job over the last year taking over from Stephen. Treasurer job is perhaps the hardest one in the association, so I thank Dave for his work. I also want to say that, if we stayed on track where we were on membership, and just, through mid-March, we had more members than we had in 2012, 2013. So we were really on a track to smash our old membership record from 2018, 2019. We stayed on track there and, had a decent year in sanctions. That coupled with the increase in membership fees that we do collect from the national office, we would be near break even or at break even as an organization, probably a little bit in the profit. So COVID is a challenge. And as long as we're kind of locked down like we are, it will continue to be. Let me check out to see if we have any little blue hands, and we do. Mark, you're up.
A quick question about the $60,000 loss. What does that mean in the grand scheme of USATF New England? I mean, is that a critical loss, or is that kind of a every 5-year event? Could you give us some context?
Yeah, it's a good question. Luckily, we're in a very good overall financial position. Our current burn rate right now is we're probably losing around $7,500 to, let's say, $9,500 per month. We could actually sustain that easily all through the next year and even further. So we're fortunate in that regard. So for the moment, we haven't taken any drastic measures to reduce, costs, because it would be very difficult to do that. Our biggest cost right now is our office rent and payroll. And it's, I think we are well positioned, going into next year. Just like Chris said, he's very optimistic for our sport. So we really don't want to take any drastic measures at the moment. So
yeah. And Dave, what's our cash balance, just to give everyone 450, 475 right now?
Yeah. So what we have in our checking account, we normally maintain a balance of around $10,000. We have a savings account with $55,000, and then our what we call our investments totals $422,000. So even at absolute worst case, at that burn rate of $7,500, if that didn't change for the next 12 months, that would be a $90,000 figure. So you can see with, between $400,000 and $500,000 available to us, we could certainly sustain that. So I don't think anybody expects us to lose that much over the next 12 months. But, as a board, is probably our, number one topic, at every one of our meetings, is to, look at where we are and look where the future's taking us, and, what do we want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Mark, Thank you for your question. Do we have any?
Can I get a quick follow-up?
Sure.
Have we had any losses in the recent past? I mean, in the last 10 years, and what does a typical year look like as far as cash flow is concerned?
So to Dave, let me just answer that briefly. We did a big office renovation a couple of years ago. Did some in spending and marketing, and that was kind of a planned investments. But I think it's fair to say, Dave and Stephen, you can comment. A typical year for us, if we're holding certain championships, we're somewhere between 0 and 20,000 in the black.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Great, thank you, Mark and Dave. Let me move, and if you guys could go back on mute, that would be great. Let me move to the next agenda item. Next is unfinished business. We had no unfinished business from last year's annual meeting. So we'll move to our next agenda item, which will be the bylaw amendment discussion. As some of you may remember, in 2016, we passed 31 bylaw changes after a year-long review by the board. And in 2017, we made an additional 5 bylaw changes to total 36 changes in that time frame. Those amendments modernized our bylaws and really have helped make the board run more smoothly. Those amendments, plus a series of best practices and operating procedures that we adopted. This year, I worked with Steve, and then we formed a small governance committee of Dave Tesler and Steve Vegas to think about where we are. And we have 4 additional amendments that the board would like to propose to this group. I would define them all as cleanup in nature. They're either A, required by the USATF national office, and or B, they memorialize a current practice that we have. I will review each of these 4 bylaw amendments. You can find them on the USATF New England website, and then ask for a motion to submit them to a vote. We will open the floor to discussion, and then Justin will run a Zoom poll on each of these 4 items. So for those who have your USATF New England bylaws, I'm probably one of the most exciting things one can read. You can follow along there, or you can follow along from the page that was posted on the website. Proposal 1 is a modification of Article 6B4. It allows our elections are required to be done in a secret ballot, as Zoom will allow us to do. It does not specify how that's done, whether it's done paper or electronically. So the insertion to the sentence is a secret ballot insertion, either on paper and or in electronic form, may be used for contested elections. So we did not feel this was legally required, but we felt that since we were voting electronically for the first time, and we may vote electronically going forward, that this was a good, prudent cleanup to the bylaws. Proposal number 2 is something that has happened in practice, but we thought we should memorialize. Proposal number 2 is on Article 6B6. It's who gets elected to the annual meeting. The current paragraph reads, association delegates to the national annual meeting shall be elected at the annual meeting of members, which is where we are right now. Should they be available, the president, secretary, treasurer, and managing director shall be automatic selections for the delegation. That is the insert. So our feeling was that those 4 officers, they have to go to the national meeting. They have certain tasks to do there. As it turns out, those 4 people are typically always the top 4 in the ballot. And we usually have anywhere from 17 to 19 delegates, depending on the year. We have 17 delegates this year. But our feeling that was important. The president has to be there. Our managing director has to be there. and it's very important for our secretary and treasurer to be there. So our feeling is that that would simplify things going forward. Proposal 3 is 10E. This is a required change from the USATF National Office. Our current bylaws say that the members of the USATF New England Board have to pass the youth background check and meet under USATF requirements. We have changed that to be the USATF background check. There's no longer a youth background check. It is now just a uniform background check. So we took the word youth out and we added the phrase, including being Safe Sport certified. Being Safe Sport certified is a requirement of all members of all association boards. It was implied in our old language because it says meet other USATF requirements, but we felt they've asked that all associations add this to this bylaw, and so we need to do it from a USATF perspective. The last change is really a change in a title. This is on Article 16D, Auditor and Audit Report. If you read our requirement, we have a requirement to have a review of our financials by an accounting firm. It is not technically an audit, so if you read 16D, it says that we have to have an independent auditor examine the books and financial records of USATF New England. That costs $7,000, $8,000 a year. And that is technically not an audit, it's a review. They do essentially the work of an audit, but we do not ask for an opinion letter. That saves us probably about another $7 or $8 grand. Technically, our feeling was that since the title was not precise with the language says auditor and audit report, it's technically auditor and report. So the only change there is to take the word audit out of that title. So those are the 4 proposals.
I'll make the motion.
Mike, thanks for making the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dave, thank you. It's on the floor. I'm opening it up to discussion. Please raise your little blue hand if you would like to comment or discuss any of these 4 motions. Great. So do I have a motion to close discussion?
A motion to close discussion and move to a vote.
Okay.
I second.
Thanks,
I
Mike.
second.
Okay. So the vote will now begin. Justin will now post a Zoom poll. You will have the chance to vote yes, no on each proposal. It is 5 o'clock. We will close the Zoom poll at 5:03. So 2 minutes. Good luck, everybody. Just press the button and hit next, and you'll get through it. One more minute to vote, everyone. Just to note, everybody, these need 2/3 to pass. So I didn't mention it. Obviously, I probably won't change your vote, but for those who are having trouble seeing number 4, you just have to scroll down a little bit. I don't know how to, depending on what device you're on, you'll have to scroll away. Okay, great. 10 more seconds.
Chris, it's Stephen.
Yes, Stephen.
I gave Justin via chat that 2 people are not eligible to vote, so I'm assuming he's handling that, but I don't know if you wanted to know or want me to text you or announce those 2 people.
Yeah, so to be a voter, you have to be a USATF member in good standing by the start of this meeting. So there are 2 people. Stephen, maybe you could just send a message to those 2 folks,
Okay.
just so that they know.
Okay. Yeah, and Justin knows. So yeah,
And Justin knows. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Right. Thank you.
Good idea.
We're going to close the voting now. And Justin, if you could put up the results, that would be great. Okay, so proposal 1 received 98%. Proposal 2 received 94%. Proposal 3 received 96%. And proposal 4 received 96%. So thank you, everybody. We've had our first successful electronic vote. And greatly appreciate everyone's consideration on that. So now that the bylaw part of the agenda is complete, I'd like to move to new business. So we have a couple items of new business that I'm aware of. So I'm going to start with those first, and then we're going to open it up for other members who have new business. So first, one piece of new business, Chris Wargo is going to give a minute or 2 update on cross country. I gave you an update on the success, or what appears to be success on a codfish bowl. Chris is going to talk a little bit about a cross country championship potentially in November.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Not giving up on trying to hold a significant cross-country event in the fall. And of course, we're targeting the championships, which historically have been held in Franklin Park. Because of certain state restrictions across the association, our 4-state association, we're still looking in southern New Hampshire. There's a possibility of holding an event there. But of course, primarily, the most important thing about holding any event during this time is adherence to safety standards, both USATF, state and local community. So trust me, that's the first part of determining if we can hold the event. We're not going to rush into something just to try to slap it together so we can all go out and run. We have to be respectful of what's going on. So we are targeting southern New Hampshire, specifically the Nashua area. That one is accessible to the vast majority of our members. But of course, this changes week to week. We did notice, I think last week, Vermont issued a no travel report or case for certain counties in southern New Hampshire. So, we started planning this about 6 to 8 weeks ago, and still chunking through it. So, hoping to have an announcement, yes or no, by September 30th. On this, but it would be, as we picture it, a chip-timed event. It would be seated start to minimize passing and bunching on the course. Still not sure about the course length, 5, 6, or 8K, but everyone would run the same length. There would be 3 races, one for all men inclusive, one for all women inclusive, and a third possibility of an open event for non-USATF members as a marketing and outreach race. We're trying to attract more people to our sport and to the association. So we've worked hard on it, but we just can't. We're hoping to nail something down, a yes or no announcement by today, but it didn't happen. We are working with the premier race leader in New Hampshire. He really is the one who constructed the state guidelines for holding racing events. So we feel that's our best chance of success in terms of knowing if we can do this or not under all the correct conditions. So again, we hope to have the final decision if we can make a go of this on September 30th. And remember, even if we do say this is a go and we register, conditions still may change going forward. The target is November 14th, 21st, or 22nd. So keep it open. basically, stay safe out there, but also stay competitive because there's still a possibility for us to be wrong.
Chris, thank you very much. In that format, it sounds like I'll be starting as one of the last runners, but I do think it's a great format and one that could work, and Chris has done a lot of work on it. So more to come in the next 2 weeks. The next piece of new business, we have one other piece of new business that I am aware of. It relates to the annual meeting. Dave Lapierre was kind enough to let you know, and you've probably seen on your email, that the annual meeting scheduled for Reno is now going to be a virtual meeting. To be clear, that's done for safety reasons. The meeting is likely going to take place in a series of Zoom phone calls that start probably a week before the original start date and go over the course of a week. We don't know yet when the dates are, when the times are, how it's going to work. We do know we're going to have 17 delegates. But as it relates to Zoom, the one beautiful thing about this is that anybody is going to be able to dial in. So in the past, the vote is very important because we provide reimbursement for the trip to go for our delegates. Here, any member is going to be able to dial into these meetings, it appears. And so the delegates are going to be important for the vote, but it's not about the trip. So as we talked about it as a board, we don't know exactly what the times and dates are. We're scheduled to have a vote for delegates here. What the board would like to do is ask the membership to allow the new president, duly elected presidents, which would be Dave in a little while, actually make the decision on who the delegates are based on who can show up to the Zoom calls at what time they are. They could be November 30th, they could be December 6th. It's just, we don't have the schedule. So I'd like to put forward a motion. I will read it and we'll see if we have someone who'll put it out there and second it. The motion would be as follows. The USATF New England president, subject to approval by the USATF New England board, is authorized to select USATF New England's voting delegates to the 2020 National Annual Meeting to be held virtually in December.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Just one thing, if this does pass, if someone does want to dial in and be a representative, obviously they can email Dave. Dave as president would just pick best person available for the Zoom call at whatever time. And remember, the Zoom calls are going to have to be scheduled to fit East Coast all the way through Hawaii time zone. So I'm not sure when they're going to be. Any discussion?
Chris?
Okay. Yes.
Is there going to be a fee involved in joining these calls?
We don't know. That I have a national board meeting next week, and we will discuss that. We have no
question. Is there a cost?
I don't know.
Okay, that was, yeah, so that basically the same question Mike just asked. Again, we have no details for the annual meeting. Might there be a $20 cost or something like that? That's possible. But we don't know. We don't know the times. All we know is virtual, and the meetings are going to be scattered about. I don't see any other blue hands. So a motion to close the discussion.
So moved.
Second on that.
I'll second.
All right, we got it. Okay.
Chris, for this election, can we just vote with the yes
Yeah.
or no on
Yes.
the bottom of the participant screen? So if you folks go to the participant screen, way down on the bottom, there's a yes, no, go slower, go faster button. If you vote yes for this proposal, signify by clicking that. If not, click the no. And Chris, let us know when you want to close that.
Okay, we'll give everyone 30 seconds.
Right now, we have 57 participants, 33 votes.
Okay, 10 more seconds.
Chris, I don't see a vote here. I don't see anything on my screen.
Okay. Okay, it's, Justin, how many yes votes do we have?
Right now, we have 36 yes votes and
Okay.
zero no votes.
Okay, so it's,
If you click on the participants button at the bottom.
so we have 36 yeses, no nos, so it has passed. Does anybody else want to vote that has been unable to vote? Okay, so closing the vote in 15 seconds.
Close it.
Okay, and what's our final score here, Justin?
Final is 43 yes and 1 no. We have 57 participants online.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for voting. Next, we will move to the election. As you'll see posted on the website, there's a list of candidates for 17 offices. I will read their names, ask for a motion on their nominations, ask for any additional nominations, close the floor for nominations. For any contested offices, we will give each person in a contested office 2 minutes to speak. As part of those discussions, we will ask Dave Tesler, who will be our new president, to give a speech as well. For uncontested offices, we will vote by acclamation. We'll just do it verbally. And for contested offices, we will vote during Zoom. So a bunch of steps there, and I will take people through it. So first, I would ask people to go to the website. I will read these names to put them on the floor. For President, Dave Tesler. For Vice President, Matt Castriata, Tommy Mazza, Maggie Fox. For Secretary, Stephen Peccaconis. For Treasurer, Dave Lapierre. Long distance runnings, Alex Predholm. Women's long distance running, Amanda Waters. Masters long distance running, Stephen Villegas. Masters track and field, Mike Travers. Mike, are you also open track and field or no?
That would be Jeff Rockwood.
Okay, Jeff Rockwood for open track and field. Chris Wargo for cross country. Paul Kirsch for mutt. Justin Coe for race walking. Youth athletics. Do we have a candidate? David's.
Peter Craftsy.
Oh, that's right. Peter Crapsey. Sorry. For athletes rep, we have Ben Bosworth, Rich Harned, and Amanda Pasco.
What
Those
about,
are the
did we get Tim Morris also?
Oh, we got to go through the process.
Sorry.
Okay. So for those candidates who nominated before the meeting, do I have a motion for those?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, so they're on the floor. I did receive an email about someone who wanted to run for athletes rep. I need a motion and a second on that candidate if he still wants to run.
So moved.
Okay, so Tim Morse is a candidate for athletes rep. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a fourth candidate for athletes rep. So for those who are running for athletes rep, be prepared. We will be doing speeches in alphabetical order of your last name. Any other candidates for any other offices? Do I have a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. So first, I would like to ask, first I'd like to have Dave Tesler to speak. since he's running for president, and it is an important job. So we're going to ask Dave to speak for a few minutes. Then we're going to vote on acclamation on all officers and sports committee chairs. And then we will then move to our athletes rep election, which will have 4 speeches and then an election via Zoom. Dave, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I guess coming to this meeting and to this role, I'm just grateful for Chris's leadership over the last, using his opening in his last 90 minutes. So he had 1.5 million minutes as president. I didn't know that either for myself going forward, but anyway, I'm grateful to work with all the people on this call, all the people in the community, and the traditions that make up USATF New England. We have great stories to tell. We have great stories to create. Whether you run up Mount Washington or Barricade Hill, throw the hammer in Rhode Island, race walk on Gordon Track, or if you're in Vermont and you're an Olympic hopeful or a Masters record setter, or you're lucky enough to compete in a dual meet that comes down to the 4x4. We've got great stories to tell, and to grow the sport, I think we've got to tell these stories to an increasing set of ears and eyes out there. While I spend some time competing, I spend most of my time in this sport coaching youth. I really think this is the ideal sport for long-term athletic development for youth and personal development for youth, and that was my entry into this sport. I'm grateful to all the officials who ensure our meets run according to rule and on schedule. Grateful for the meet directors and the clubs who deliver the experience. I think if USATF New England can support the clubs and the coaches, we're going to help the sport grow. A lot of the work that Steve does is, quietly doing this all the time. We're going to come in with hat in hand on many ways, but certainly on this front. So I think there's great expertise and experience within the organization and within the community to help bring the whole community forward. Grateful for everyone who showed up today to this meeting, taking the time out of a wonderful afternoon. Grateful for all of those who have agreed to put their names forward for a role in the Board of Governors. And of course, all these smiles and stories come from our core competencies of running competitive events and enabling training opportunities. And obviously, we're impaired there right now. I think, obviously, the next 18 months, a lot of the financial and operational issues are all going to come back to getting us back into competitions. And we're going to need the community to be creative, to put on small events as we move our way back to our bigger, more traditional events. However, I'm not going to miss this opportunity to say we still need your membership. Obviously, everyone on this call is a member, and we appreciate it. We're going to need that support going forward so we can continue this background work before we return back to what we have come to know and appreciate. So in summary, USATF New England is here to support our athletes and grow the sport. I think if we enable our coaches and our clubs and our, especially on the youth side, is our best mechanism to support the sport. And I appreciate all the help going forward, getting us back to competition, and thanks for the support in the past as well. So I'll turn it back over to you, Chris.
Dave, thank you. Thank you for those warm remarks. I think a great summary. I didn't realize it was 1.5 million minutes, but I'll give some discussion. I'll talk a little bit at the end about my 4 years, but I will. You'll enjoy, at least 1.4 million of those minutes. I'll tell you that. So, with that, I'd like to first, by acclamation, vote for the slate of officers and committee chairs. As Justin said before, please vote for these people with your yes/no button. We will keep this vote open for a minute. This is a yes/no vote on every by acclamation. These are uncontested offices, so not sure what the no vote would be for, but you do have the right to vote no. These are for uncontested offices for officers and sports committee chairs. So please find your yes/no button and go ahead. Great.
We have 58 participants, 45 have voted so far.
Great. And Justin, can you take me off being a co-host right now?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Yes, I can. Hosts and co-hosts can't vote, so that's why Chris is asking me to do so.
Yeah, I wanted to vote. I promised I'd vote for Dave, so.
Although I think you can vote on this yes, no thing.
I got my yes, no was
Yes.
gone too, Justin. It
Yeah.
just popped up, so.
Okay.
Okay, we're closing
Chris
the
wants
vote.
to make sure he's gone.
Yeah, so I gotta make
Okay.
sure.
We
Yeah,
have
so-
57 participants, 48 voted yes. There's 1 no vote.
Okay. Thank you very much for your participation in the election. Now we will move to the election for athletes rep. We have 4 candidates for athletes rep. Each will have up to 2 minutes, and I have a stopwatch, up to 2 minutes to state their candidacy. For those who are interested, each candidate who was nominated ahead of this meeting had the chance to post 2 paragraphs on the website. So any candidates, even the ones you just voted for. So if you would like to look at the website as well during this process, it is 5:24. The goal is that by 5:32 we are voting. First, I'd like to ask, thank you, Dave, for alerting everyone to that link. Next, I'd like to ask, first I'd like to ask Ben Bosworth from the Western Mass Distance Project to speak for 2 minutes.
Hey, can everyone hear me? Or
Yes, Ben, go ahead.
can you get me? Great. So my name is Ben Bosworth. I run for the Western Mass Distance Project. And as was mentioned, I am running for the position of athlete rep. I've been in New England my whole life. I've been competing in New England as long as I've been competing in track and fielding, cross country. And USATF New England has given me such an incredible opportunity to compete at so many different events, so many different levels. As I mentioned, my interest is in long distance running. And I think that perspective would really suit me well in this position. But that said, I'm not someone who, kind of just cordons myself off in my own corner of the sport. I'm really excited about all different types of events, all different types of literal events on a track, and so that interest, I think, would also suit me well. I think it's really important in this day and age, in the past year and moving forward, to be able to be creative about the way athletes are being represented, the events that are being put on for them, and the opportunities for them to compete and to train. And I think that creativity is something that I would really love to bring to this position. So I'd really hope to be elected, but I'm sure all the candidates are great. So, vote wisely. Thank you.
Ben, thank you very much for your comments. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Rich Harned of Mass Velocity Track Club. Rich? Is Rich on? I don't see his name on the list.
He's not on.
Okay, Rich Harned is not on. Next, I'd like to turn to Tim Morris, who was nominated by Mike Travers and seconded by Stephen Pekakonis.
Chris, it's Jim Burgoyne. Today is Tim's father's birthday, so he couldn't make it, so he asked me if I could say a few words, if that would be all right.
That's fine. I will, Jim, if you're going to say a few words, I will give someone an opportunity to say a few words for Rich too. But Jim, go ahead.
Absolutely, sure. So Tim Morris asked me to speak for him as he is looking to run for the athletes representative position. Tim is a master's thrower, M64 class. He's a thrower, he's a coach, he's a USATF official. Tim has been, he's also on the board of directors of the Twilight Throwers. Tim coaches currently at Suffolk University. In the past, he's coached at Hingham High School, Northeastern, and UMass Boston. Tim has competed in a number of the World Championships of Masters. He competed in Sacramento back in 2011, where he got a silver medal in the weight throw. He competed in Lyon, he competed in Malaga, and was training for Toronto this year. Unfortunately, as all of us, none of us could make it. Tim has been very active in supporting Twilight throwers and USATF and all throwers. Twilight throwers with USATF put on a high school throws championship every winter, and Tim has been a very integral part of that. I know he's worked with USATF on actually putting on clinics for throwing. And frankly, Tim said to me, he goes, "It's my turn, it's my time." So he's thrown his hat in the ring to become an athlete's rep for USATF New England.
Jim, thank you so much for those kind remarks about Tim. Rich Harned is not here. I feel that since Jim spoke for Tim, it's only right for someone to speak to Rich. Would somebody like to volunteer to speak to Rich? Rich is Kennedy. If you do, feel free to just take yourself off mute. Steve, see you're off mute. Steve Villegas, did you want to say something?
No, I guess I failed to mute, but yeah, Richard's the top level Masters thrower. He's won many championships at the regional and local level in Masters. He's a very dedicated USATF member. He actually ended up winning. I thought this was one of his great claims to fame. He won a lottery that USATF had to have a free trip out to one of our annual meetings, which he made. But so Rich is, is currently a very active athlete and good man.
Super. Stephen, thank you. For those who don't know, Steve was past president and secretary of USATF New England. My first 2 year, we've had the chance to serve with Steve on, several times on the board. Okay, with that, last candidate is Amanda Pasco, Boston North Track Club.
My name is Amanda Pasco, and I would be honored to serve you as USATF New England Athletes Rep this year. I believe that my experiences as an athlete, coach, and in other pursuits will help me to contribute to the best possible athletes experience in what we know will be an unusual year ahead. Athletically, I train for and compete in the multi-events. I competed collegiately for Rice University, where I was Scholar Athlete of the Year and won 9 conference awards. I've competed in USATF Association, regional, and national meets in a range of events for many years, and I believe that my experience training for and competing in many different events at a high level helps me to understand what a range of athletes need to succeed in this unique year. I've also been involved as a coach. I'm a USATF Level 2 coach, and I founded the Wellesley Wings Track and Field Club. I've coached dozens of athletes to USATF and New Balance national medals and guided many to collegiate competition. In addition, I have 2 social media pages in which I post on exercise science and nutrition. Finally, I'm currently studying nutrition and epidemiology at Harvard School of Public Health. I believe that my background in public health will help me to assist in implementing and designing safe competition formats with the unique rules ahead. Furthermore, I think that this year is an ideal opportunity for continuing education to learn more about our sport and ways to be the best athletes that we can be. With my background in exercise science and nutrition, I would be excited to lead an initiative on this front. I've spoken to many members on what they value most and what they're most concerned about in the year ahead. Many reference facility access, safe competition opportunities, and chances to learn more about their sport. I'm committed to each of these 3 initiatives, and I'll keep an open line of communication and what can help members most this year. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you.
Okay, those are speeches from our four candidates. Thank you to each of them. I want to thank everyone for running. It's always hard to put your hat in the ring, but I greatly appreciate that. So next step, the Zoom poll will appear. There are four candidates for 3 spots. You can vote for up to 3. You can vote for 1, 2, or 3. You cannot vote for 4. Do not vote for 4, but you can vote for up to 3. This election is 5:33. At 5:35, the election will end. So 2 minutes to do this election. Ten more seconds, everybody. Voting is now closed for athletes rep.
Give me a second here. I'm stuck in the middle of something here.
Okay, well, take your time, Justin.
There we go. And polling. All right. I'm going to paste this one to our 3 poll counters.
Yes.
Print
So
screen.
our bylaws require that 3 poll counters verify the results. Hopefully this will go better than some recent Academy Awards presentations, but we do make sure that we have 3 people see the results before they're announced so that the proper results are announced. So those 3 poll watchers will now see the results, verify them, and when they're announced, if something's gone horribly wrong, I guess they'll run up on the stage and steal the Oscar away from someone. But this is in our bylaws. So there is a raised hand. Yes, Rodney Hemingway, you have a
Hi.
question.
Yeah, I just wondered who the poll watchers are.
The poll watchers, very good. The poll watchers are, it's Dave, it's Dave, why don't you go through the poll watchers? You know who they're.
Jack Wozik, past athletes rep, Steve Villegas, past president and past secretary, and Scott Mindel, outgoing LDR chair, are the 3 poll watchers.
Thank you very much.
And Tom Dadarian did make a comment. He doesn't miss the tiny little pieces of paper. So, which we used to do. It was a bit chaotic. Maybe the electronic world is better. Okay. Do we have thumbs up from the poll watchers? Jack,
Well,
Scott?
where are the results to look at?
Oh, sorry, guys. I can't send them through Zoom, so I had to send them through your emails. So
Yeah,
they
so
went to
please check your email accounts. Yes.
I shall do that.
When you've all seen it on email. Okay, Scott has seen it. Jack, are you, Jack, just chat once you've seen it. Jack and
I'm not sure why it's not showing up for me,
It's a screenshot, basically.
but it's in an email.
It's in an email, the email that I sent you earlier to set up the three folks.
Jack
to
Wozak
get-
has seen them. So Jack, thank you. So we're just waiting for you, Steve.
Okay, I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
It was sent at 5:37. It's from JQ at USATFNE.org.
Okay, let me open up Gmail and maybe that'll help. Mail. Oh, here it is.
Just let me know once you've seen it, Steve.
Yeah, I'm just loading Gmail here because it's not showing up in my other email.
Okay, it was sent to your USATFNE.org email address.
That's showing up in this one, but let me change my identities here. No, that's not the right one. This is awful.
Hey, Justin, can you send it to Mike Travers as well?
I can. Let's forward this.
Mike is our Masters chair, serves on the Masters National.
Mike, I sent it to your, oops, I'm gonna have to forward it actually, I think. Forward it to your, Gmail address.
It looks like, no, I don't, for some reason it's not coming through to me.
Okay, so we're gonna have Mike serve as the third person. Mike, is your email open? Yeah, he's looking for it. Okay, 1 minute from Mike. 1 minute. Once Mike gives a thumbs up on his screen, Justin will post it. He just needs to see what the results are so that when they're posted, they are confirmed.
Justin, which email account did you send it to?
Your Gmail account. The MF Treasurer 1958.
Oh, that's, yeah, okay. That's my national account.
Okay, sorry.
Hold on. Let me get there.
Okay. That was the first one that popped up. Sorry.
Okay, we have a thumbs up. Justin,
Yay.
put up the results. Here we go.
All right.
All right. So Ben Bosworth was 79%, Amanda Pasco with 81%, and Tim Morse with 57% are our athlete reps. So let's have a round of applause for our athletes reps. Thank you for your willingness to serve, and thank you for all four of you to run. Congratulations. Okay. So finally, it's time to close today's meeting. So out of my 1,000,005 minutes, I'm only down to 3. So, but I do want to say a few words before I leave today. Serving as president has been a wonderfully fulfilling experience. I remember when Tom Derderian gave me the key to the office, which by the way, I've lost. You know, I didn't know what was really what was ahead. And I'm going to remember these 4 years with really great fondness. The thing I'm going to remember the most is about meeting so many of you. There was lots of people in the organization. I was involved heavily on the youth side. And I've had a chance to just meet so many people. People I never would have met in competitions, in meetings. It's been great. I had a chance to run my first mountain race, my first trail race. I met lots of people in that community I'd never known. It's really been a wonderful experience. I think most importantly, though, it's been really incredible and an honor to serve with so many committed board members who give tremendous amounts of their time to the sport. I know that when you call the office or you contact us, it's usually because maybe your new USATF Connect isn't working or something else is going on. But I will tell you, the board members consistently give so much of themselves to the sport. It's actually incredible. So I do want to thank the board members who have agreed to continue on in their service. I think Dave's going to do a great job as president, as you saw in the speech. Maggie's been a wonderful secretary and vice president, led her office renovation that I mentioned. Tommy, who's been an athletes rep, is very involved in NERCA and has become a VP today. Dave, who you heard in the treasurer's report. Stephen, who's really did a great job as treasurer and has really done a wonderful job as secretary and as an expert in databases. As we try to drive membership back up, his contributions are going to really be important. Amanda, who's done a great job in LDR. Steve, who you heard earlier, while he couldn't open his email, he's been a president, a secretary, very active on the national level. Mike Travers, who's just been invaluable on this board and really drives our amazing Masters track and field program in New England. Chris, who you heard on cross country. Paul Kirsch, who drives the best MUT program in the country. And Justin, who's been driving this meeting today, who leads race walking but does everything for us. Finally, I want to leave and really highlight three of these individuals who've been really helpful to me. First, Mike, besides serving as our fill-in vote counter, Mike's done a lot of amazing things. Whenever I have a question and I need advice, Mike Travers is the person I've called over the past 4 years. He's helped me do reviews. He's helped me make big decisions. He's a really integral part of the board. He's been on the board 14, 15, 16 years. It's pretty amazing. He's a special person. Justin, Justin is someone, I'd seen at races, but, 6 months into my term, I kept on asking myself, who did that? And who did this? And who put in a new router? And who bought a new PC? And who did this in the office? And who timed the race? And the answer was always Justin. Justin does everything. I've not met a person on any board who's more selfless than Justin. There should be a picture of selflessness. In the dictionary, it would be Justin. I want to thank you for all that you've done. Justin's been on the board, I think, for 30 years, has been involved in our sport. He's has a role as a national record keeper, but truly a real special individual. And then Steve Vitonis. I'm going to miss my calls with Steve. Hopefully he'll still take my calls. I don't know. But it's been 4 amazing years. We are really blessed to have someone who's dedicated 3 decades of his life. I really wish we could do this in person. Steve's worked here now. This is his 30th year. Most of us, the only thing we'll do for 30 years is be married, hopefully. For many of us, we won't have a job that long. Steve's done that job. He's tireless. He's a defender for your rights. Trust me. Even to the last moment, he was asking me to do things on your behalf. So I want to thank you. And I think in life we're all measured on how we help others. I think that's our ultimate measuring stick. And if that is the case, these 3 people will always be at the top of the list. So thank you to all 3 of you. So with that, my 1.5 million minutes are up. Thank you so much. I do have a slot on the board for 1 more year. The past president gets to serve for 1 more year. I will be stepping back for a couple board meetings, let the new board take shape, and then maybe around Christmas, I'll come back and cause a little trouble. But with that, I'd like to ask if we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
A second.
Second.
Okay. we'll see everybody around this time next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
You.